"You won't be needed anymore, Hank. Security will escort you out." Brady Caldwell didn't whisper it. He wanted the whole room to hear. 12 suppliers. Every one of them flew in from different states. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Birmingham were 15 minutes from signing a $1.2 billion defense contract. Pens ready. Purchase orders printed. And this 34-year-old kid who's been CEO for 14 months decides now is the perfect time to fire me. I'm Howard Morrison. People call me Hank. I'm 47 years old. I spent 23 years building this company's supplier network from scratch. Right now, I'm watching my career get executed in public. But here's what Brady doesn't know. I saw this coming 8 months ago, and the trap I built, he just walked right into it. The words hit like a punch to the gut. I'll admit that. But I didn't flinch. I caught Roy Hendrick's eye across the table. He runs the biggest machining operation in Ohio. He gave me the slightest nod. Not sympathy. Recognition. He knew something Brady didn't. 23 years. That's what I gave to Apex Industrial Solutions. 23 years of 5 a.m. production meetings and weekend quality audits. I missed my daughter's graduation from state for a contract in Pittsburgh that nobody else could salvage. She didn't talk to me for 6 months after that. My ex-wife got tired of me choosing the job over the family. Filed for divorce 3 years ago while I was troubleshooting a line failure in Cleveland. Some prices are too high even for a $1 million contract. I wasn't just pushing papers around. I served 6 years in the Marines before this. Afghanistan, 2 tours. Got my engineering degree on the GI Bill right after discharge, learning systems thinking the hard way over there. When your equipment fails in a combat zone, people die. Same principle applies in manufacturing. You build redundancy, you plan for failure. You never leave your people exposed. My job was keeping 47 different supplier relationships running smooth. You know how long it takes to build that kind of trust. Years. Not LinkedIn posts or PowerPoint presentations. Years of standing on factory floors at 2 a.m. when something went wrong. Late night calls when a delivery was running behind schedule. Handshake deals in VFW halls where the real negotiations happened over beer and war stories. Brady Caldwell was everything I wasn't. Where I listened for machinery stress patterns, he talked about efficiency metrics. Where I planned for actual breakdowns, he planned social media campaigns. The kid had been riding on supplier relationships I'd built before he learned what a torque specification meant. His office was full of awards and recognition plaques, most of them for deals I'd closed. I heard him once in the break room. Didn't think I could hear. He told someone the company needed next-generation leadership. That's code for too old. Means my 23 years of keeping production lines running doesn't matter because I don't tweet about manufacturing trends. Means my Purple Heart and 2 Afghanistan deployments don't count because they happened before social media existed. Here's what killed me about Brady. He kept using these corporate buzzwords: lean optimization, digital transformation, synergistic integration. You know what transformation means to guys like Brady? Breaking systems that already work, then acting surprised when the whole operation shuts down. I watched him do it to our quality control department. Cut staff by 30% and wondered why defect rates went up. The kid had an MBA from some fancy East Coast school. Never spent a day on a factory floor. Never had to explain to a Gold Star mother why her son's vehicle failed because someone cut corners on a $3 part. Never felt the weight of responsibility that comes with knowing your work keeps American soldiers alive. Now he was making his move right here in front of 12 of the most important suppliers in the automotive defense sector. This wasn't just about firing me. It was about proving the old school was finished, about showing everyone that experience had an expiration date. That relationships could be replaced with algorithms and efficiency reports. I didn't stand up right away. My eyes went to the head of the table where Brady's tablet was already open to his presentation. New leadership for a new era. He'd been planning this for weeks. The heat in my chest was an embarrassment. It was operational pressure. The slow build kind. The kind that happens when someone tries to bypass your safety systems without understanding what they're for. Around the table, I could see the suppliers starting to pick up on the tension. These weren't corporate yes men. They were guys who'd built their businesses with their own hands. They understood loyalty. They understood what it meant when someone got thrown under the bus in public. Roy's jaw tightened. Pete Kowalski from Wisconsin set his pen down hard. You don't humiliate a veteran in front of his people. Not in their world. Brady was still talking, but nobody was listening anymore. You learn to read a room when you've been in enough firefights. The energy had shifted. What started as a routine contract signing was turning into something else entirely. Something Brady hadn't planned for. Let me back up. Tell you how I got here. 23 years ago, I was fresh out of the Corps with an engineering degree and a head full of manufacturing theory I'd never tested in the real world. I was 24. Most people thought I was crazy, taking a junior position when I could have gone straight into management somewhere else. But I wanted to understand how things actually worked, not just the theory they taught in textbooks. The Marines taught me something colleges can't. Attention to detail saves lives. In Helmand Province, I learned that a loose bolt on a Humvee could mean the difference between coming home and coming home in a flag-draped box. That lesson stuck with me when I started working factory floors in Detroit. I spent my first 3 years learning every machine in the building, how each one sounded when it was running right, how to spot stress fractures before they became catastrophic failures, how to read the subtle vibrations that meant a bearing was about to seize up. By year 5, I could diagnose line problems just from walking past equipment. I built my reputation on the impossible fixes, the supplier relationships everyone said were dead. There was this crisis in Pittsburgh that made my career. We had 72 hours to deliver custom brackets for a military vehicle contract. Our primary supplier had a catastrophic press failure, complete hydraulic system breakdown. Everyone said we were finished. The contract penalty would have been $40 million, plus we'd lose the follow-on orders worth another $200 million over 3 years. I drove out there myself, spent 18 hours in their facility, going through every piece of equipment they had. Found a secondary operation that could machine the parts if we modified the specifications by 0.003 inches, still within tolerance. But it meant hand-checking every single bracket instead of using automated inspection. I called up 6 guys I knew from the VFW, all machinists, all unemployed because their shops had closed down. We set up a quality control line in the supplier's spare bay. Worked around the clock for 60 hours straight, pizza and coffee keeping us going. By hour 55, my hands were shaking from exhaustion, but every bracket that went out was perfect. We made the delivery with 4 hours to spare. The customer never knew how close they came to mission failure. That's the kind of work I did for 23 years. Not Instagram-worthy, not disruptive innovation, but it kept American soldiers alive and American workers employed. It built trust between companies that lasted decades. It created relationships that couldn't be replaced by efficiency algorithms or cost-cutting spreadsheets. Brady took credit for that Pittsburgh save 6 months ago, stood up at the annual supplier conference and accepted an Excellence Award for innovative problem-solving. Never mentioned my name. Never mentioned the 6 unemployed machinists who saved his contract. He talked about leveraging underutilized resources and optimizing supply chain flexibility. Corporate speak for real people, doing real work. I sat in the back of that ballroom watching him bask in applause for my crisis management. That's when I knew Brady wasn't just incompetent, he was dangerous. The kind of leader who takes credit for success and spreads blame for failure. The kind who thinks loyalty flows upward but accountability flows down. Now here we are in Conference Room A at Apex headquarters. Brady thought he'd just stripped away every bit of leverage I had. He had no idea what was about to happen. I picked up my toolbox. The metal case was worn from 23 years of plant visits and emergency repairs. Inside was something Brady didn't know about. A digital authorization key, military-grade encryption. You can't just walk into a defense contract and start signing papers. Every purchase order, every specification change, every delivery schedule needs dual authorization. Operations director and CEO both have to sign off. That system was my idea. Implemented it 4 years ago after a security breach almost cost us a Navy contract. Someone had tried to slip in a change order that would have substituted Chinese steel for American-made, would have violated Defense Department regulations and gotten us blacklisted from future contracts. After that, I convinced the board we needed redundant authorization protocols. Brady's ambush didn't come out of nowhere. It had been building since he took over from the previous CEO, small changes disguised as modernization initiatives. The first time he mentioned next-generation leadership, it was in a casual hallway conversation, testing how I'd react. The second time was in a budget meeting, operational efficiency through workforce optimization, translation, fire the old guys and replace them with fresh graduates who work for half the salary. By the third mention, it was investors want forward-thinking management. He'd started bringing consultants in to evaluate our operations, young kids with MBAs who'd never worked a day in manufacturing. They spent 2 weeks observing our processes and wrote a 50-page report recommending we eliminate redundant personnel and streamline decision-making protocols. Nobody challenged Brady openly. The other executives just looked at their phones and pretended they were checking messages. They knew which way the wind was blowing. Corporate America doesn't reward loyalty anymore. It rewards quarterly earnings and cost reduction. It rewards leaders who can deliver presentations that make investors happy. I'd seen enough corporate coups to recognize the pattern. What I didn't expect was Brady choosing this moment for his power play. This meeting, 12 suppliers gathered to finalize the biggest defense contract in company history. He wanted spectacle. He wanted my removal to be part of his grand entrance as the new face of American manufacturing. 30 minutes before the meeting started, my phone buzzed. Text from Jack Torres, the only guy in procurement I still trusted, Navy vet like me, served on destroyers in the Persian Gulf. He knew how to read situations and keep his mouth shut. The message was short. Brady brought the replacement. She's waiting in the lobby. I knew who she was, Jennifer Walsh, 29 years old, MBA from Northwestern. Great at Excel spreadsheets and PowerPoint presentations. Couldn't tell the difference between a machined part and a stamped one if her life depended on it. Brady had been grooming her for months, bringing her to meetings she had no business attending, introducing her to suppliers as his special projects coordinator. I stared at that text for a long moment. The operational pressure was building, but after 6 years in the Marines, you learn to manage system stress. I checked my toolbox one more time, made sure the authorization key was secure, walked into that conference room like nothing had changed. A second notification lit up my screen, an email Brady had accidentally copied me on 4 weeks ago. I'd saved it to a secure folder, subject line, Meeting Documentation Protocol. The body detailed camera positions for capturing the leadership transition. He wanted my removal filmed and packaged as proof of his bold decision-making for future investor presentations. In that moment, I felt the system approaching failure tolerance. But underneath that pressure was something colder, certainty. Brady was walking straight into a trap he didn't even know existed. Let me tell you about the operational continuity clause. It started as an idea 8 months earlier, right around the time Brady won that award for my Pittsburgh fix. I was sitting in my office late one night, going through preliminary contracts for this $1.2 billion defense package. And I thought about all the times I'd seen deals collapse because of sudden leadership changes. Trust evaporates overnight. Quality standards slip. The whole supply chain destabilizes. So I drafted some language. Simple, professional. Military, precise. If the designated operations director named in this agreement is removed or replaced before final contract execution, all supplier commitments are automatically void. Void. That's the key specification. Not subject to renegotiation, not requires mutual agreement. Void, system shutdown. Complete stop. The clause didn't mention me by name, but in every contract, every specification sheet, every quality protocol these 12 suppliers signed, I was listed as designated operations director. Here's the thing. I couldn't present it as personal protection. That would have triggered red flags with legal and made everyone nervous. So I framed it differently. Risk management, operational stability, quality assurance continuity. I used every relationship I'd built over 23 years. When I talked to Roy Hendricks in Ohio, I used straight manufacturing language, explained how this protected his investment in specialized tooling and workforce training. His company had spent $800,000 retooling their lines for our specifications. If leadership changed and new management decided to go with cheaper overseas suppliers, Roy would be stuck with equipment he couldn't use anywhere else. With Pete Kowalski from the Wisconsin plant, I emphasized delivery schedule stability. His operation ran 3 shifts to meet our deadlines. If corporate chaos disrupted the contract flow, he'd have to lay off 150 workers right before Christmas. These weren't abstract business concerns. These were real people with mortgages and car payments and kids in college. With the Tennessee operation, I talked about quality certification continuity. They'd invested 2 years getting their ISO standards up to Defense Department requirements. A leadership change could mean starting that whole process over with new management who didn't understand the regulations, could cost them millions and years of work. You invest months setting up production lines, I told each of them. You hire specialized workers, you buy equipment that only works for these specific contracts. You deserve operational consistency until delivery completion. One by one, they agreed. Some saw it as protection against corporate chaos. Others understood exactly what I was building and approved anyway. Roy pulled me aside after one video conference. "Hank," he said quietly, "if they try to push you out before this contract closes, we walk, all of us. No discussion." That's the kind of loyalty you can't manufacture with corporate buzzwords or efficiency reports. You earn it by showing up when systems fail. You earn it by putting other people's success ahead of your own advancement. Brady signed off on all the contract drafts without reading past page 2, too busy with efficiency presentations and digital transformation roadmaps. The operational continuity clause was buried in Section 12 under quality assurance protocols. Brady never read technical specifications. Said that's what he had people for. He was more of a big-picture guy. The operational continuity clause was only the first safeguard. The second was more technical. Every contract looked complete on paper. Signatures from each supplier, purchase orders ready for processing, delivery schedules locked in. But those were preliminary authorizations. The final executable versions required dual digital authentication. Operations director and CEO both had to input their encrypted keys simultaneously for the system to process final contracts. My authorization key wasn't stored on any company server. Never was. It lived on a hardware security device about the size of a car remote, military specification, the kind we used in Afghanistan for mission-critical communications, triple encrypted, biometric locked. If someone tried to access it without authorization, the device would wipe itself clean and send alerts to external security firms. The dual key system was my design. Implemented it 4 years ago after we almost got burned by corporate espionage. A competitor had somehow gotten access to our internal systems and tried to slip in contract modifications that would have given them access to our technical specifications. Would have cost us $300 million in intellectual property and gotten us sued by the Defense Department for security violations. After that breach, I convinced the board we needed redundant authorization protocols, enhanced security, audit trail compliance, corporate governance best practices. Made it sound like I was protecting the company from outside threats, which I was. I just didn't mention I was also protecting it from internal ones. Brady inherited the dual key system when he became CEO. Never questioned it, probably never understood how it worked. The IT department explained it as standard security protocol for defense contracts. Brady just nodded and moved on to more important things like his social media strategy and brand repositioning initiatives. I could feel the weight of that authorization device in my toolbox as Brady strutted around Conference Room A, explaining to everyone how operational efficiency required fresh leadership and innovative thinking. He thought firing me had stripped away every operational lever I controlled. But control doesn't disappear when you leave the room. Not real operational control. It follows the authorization chain, and I still held the primary key. The moment I stepped away from the table, something shifted in the room dynamics. I didn't speak, didn't protest, didn't make a scene, just pushed my chair in with the same precision I used for equipment calibration. That silence created system tension. If you've spent enough time in manufacturing environments, you know the sound of pressure building toward failure. It's not loud. It's the opposite. It's the quiet before everything comes apart. Around the table, the suppliers started picking up on the change. Pens that had been ready for signing slowly lowered. Documents that had been arranged for execution got pulled back toward their owners. I caught quick glances between Roy and Pete. Rapid calculations happening in real time. These guys hadn't built successful businesses by ignoring warning signs. Brady didn't notice. Or maybe he noticed but thought it was respect for his authority. He moved into my chair like he was claiming territory. Started flipping through contracts like a man who'd already closed the biggest deal of his career. He had no idea he was about to preside over the biggest disaster in company history. "Let's proceed with final authorization," Brady announced, trying to sound confident. Trying to maintain the momentum I'd built over 8 months of careful relationship management. But momentum in manufacturing is fragile. It depends on system stability. And the stability in that room had just walked out with me. Brady spent the first few minutes reading boilerplate language. Standard delivery terms and payment schedules. Generic contract language anyone could recite from a template. Then Roy Hendricks spoke up. He leaned back in his chair. voice calm, direct, like he was asking about the weather. "Brady, could you clarify the torque specifications for the primary mounting assemblies on the armored vehicle brackets?" The question hung in the air like machinery stress before catastrophic failure. Those specifications weren't just numbers on a page. They were the foundation that balanced structural integrity across 12 different production systems. Critical load calculations, stress distribution algorithms, failure tolerance parameters. I'd written them, tested them, defended them through 20 revisions and countless engineering reviews. Brady had never been in the room for any of those technical discussions. I watched him freeze for maybe 3 seconds, eyes scanning the page, looking for something that would give him an answer he didn't have. While Brady started, the torque specifications addressed the mounting requirements for optimal structural integration. Pete Kowalski cut him off. The guy from Wisconsin. His voice carried 30 years of manufacturing experience and zero patience for corporate double talk. Without Hank, who validates our quality protocols, who signs off on specification changes, who do we call when something goes wrong at 2 a.m.? Those weren't questions looking for answers. Those were system failure alerts. Around the table, subtle movements started. Documents got closed, pens got capped, tablets got powered down. The woman from Tennessee quietly gathered her technical drawings. Roy didn't break his stare from Brady. From the corner of the room, 2 technical assistants realized what was happening and started packing their equipment. The sound of briefcase latches clicking echoed louder than it should have. Brady's confidence started showing stress fractures. His sentences got shorter. He flipped pages too fast. Desperation trying to mask the fact that he had no idea what he was talking about. The silence in the room wasn't empty anymore. It was full of calculation, full of risk assessment, full of the knowledge that this meeting wasn't moving toward contract execution anymore. It was moving toward complete system shutdown. I stayed where I was, a few steps back from the table, toolbox over my shoulder, hands loose at my sides. After 6 years in the Marines and 23 years in manufacturing, you learn when to speak and when to let physics take over. This was physics time, then it happened. The system failure Brady should have seen coming but didn't. Roy stood up slowly. His chair scraped against the floor with the finality of a production line stopping. He straightened his jacket. His voice carried the weight of final quality inspection. Per the operational continuity clause, our supplier agreement is now void. Without the designated operations director, there is no valid contract. He wasn't negotiating. He wasn't asking for clarification. He wasn't giving Brady a chance to fix this. He was stating a manufacturing fact. For a moment, Brady didn't move. He seemed to think he could troubleshoot his way out of this crisis the way he troubleshot everything, with presentations and buzzwords and efficiency metrics. We can still move forward. Brady started, gesturing desperately at the contracts spread across the table. We have preliminary agreement on all specifications. But Roy was already closing his briefcase. He walked toward the door without looking back. That was the first domino. Pete stood next, said something quiet to his assistant in Polish, followed Roy out. The woman from Tennessee gathered her documents methodically, started for the exit. Brady's voice rose to critical pressure levels, that brittle edge that happens when someone realizes their entire operational framework is collapsing in real time. If we could all just please remain seated, we can resolve any technical concerns, but nobody was listening anymore. One by one, the chairs emptied. Ohio, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Alabama, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. All 12 suppliers, not a single one stayed for Brady's damage control presentation. What remained at that table were untouched coffee cups, abandoned specification sheets, and the quiet hum of air conditioning filling the space where $1.2 billion worth of defense contracts used to be. I didn't smile, not outwardly, but somewhere deep in my operational core, there was steady pressure relief. The kind that comes when system integrity doesn't need defending because it's already walking out the door. I was halfway to the parking garage when the first crisis management call reached me. Brady's voice, sharp and desperate, carrying through the hallway from conference room A. Get legal on the line now. Emergency conference call, full damage assessment. Our corporate counsel's voice came through the speakerphone, clipped, clear, professional. Brady, without the designated operations director's participation, Section 12 voids all supplier commitments. And without his digital authorization, the system will not process final contract execution. A pause. Long enough for me to picture Brady's face going through full system diagnostic mode. Override the authorization requirement, Brady demanded. You cannot override it, came the reply. It's hard-coded into the security protocol. Any bypass attempt triggers automatic legal alerts to external audit teams and Defense Department oversight. Silence, then the quiet click of a laptop opening. A low groan. He was staring at the message I knew would be there. Authorization incomplete. Contract execution failed. System locked pending dual key reset. Perfect. I could hear Brady inside, still trying to control the narrative with increasingly frantic damage control protocols. Draft a press release. Operational adjustment. Strategic leadership evolution. No one uses the word void. No one mentions supplier withdrawal. His voice kept rising like volume could rewrite operational reality. But reality operates on engineering principles, and the engineering was moving faster than his corporate spin machine. The elevator doors closed, cutting off the sound completely. I let myself smile then, small, professional, like completing a successful system test under combat conditions. Outside, the Detroit air hit different, sharper. I walked slowly across the concrete plaza toward my truck, each step lighter than the last. Halfway across the parking lot, my phone started buzzing. Roy Hendricks calling. Hank, I assume you've heard about the operational outcome upstairs. I have, I said. Good. We want you to serve as our primary contractor for the next phase, not as an Apex employee, as an independent, full operational authority, budget to match. We've already talked to the other suppliers. Unanimous decision, independent, full operational authority. Those words meant everything after 23 years of corporate politics and efficiency consultants. That's a generous offer, Roy. It's earned, he said. Without you, there's no foundation for quality assurance. We want that foundation secured under your control this time. We talked for a few more minutes, sketching out what would become my new operation. The compensation was higher than I'd ever earned under Brady. The autonomy was complete. When that call ended, my phone vibrated again. Pete Kowalski, same offer, same terms, same respect. By the time I reached my truck, I had 8 calls from different suppliers, all saying the same thing, all wanting the same guarantee. Work with us directly. Cut out the corporate middleman. Build something that lasts. 4 months later, I'm sitting in my new office, Industrial Park outside Detroit. 3,500 square feet of operational space that's actually mine. Morrison Defense Solutions, specialized manufacturing coordination for military vehicle systems. 3 of the suppliers from that day are founding partners with me. Roy, Pete, and the operation from Alabama. The contract we closed last week was $1.4 billion. 15 suppliers. Larger scale than what Brady lost. Higher margins. Better working relationships. No corporate politics. No efficiency consultants. No buzzword presentations. Just skilled people building quality products for the men and women who put their lives on the line for this country. Brady got fired 8 weeks after the Apex disaster. Board couldn't ignore the fact that he'd destroyed a $1.2 billion defense contract in front of 12 witnesses. Couldn't explain to investors how their next-generation leader had managed to lose every major supplier in a single afternoon. Last I heard, he's working for a mid-sized consulting firm in Chicago. Reports to a 58-year-old operations VP who doesn't care about digital transformation metrics or social media followers. Sometimes the old operational standards win. Here's what I want you to understand. This isn't just another corporate revenge story. This is about something bigger. Every day in America, experience gets thrown aside for efficiency. Loyalty gets replaced with metrics. Relationships that took decades to build get destroyed by people who think everything can be optimized with spreadsheets and algorithms. But manufacturing isn't just numbers on a screen. It's about trust between people who stake their reputations on quality. It's about understanding that when you cut corners on a $3 part, someone's son or daughter might not come home. If you're facing the same pressure I faced, if some young executive is trying to push you aside for being too old or too expensive, remember this. Your experience has value. Your relationships matter. And sometimes, the best defense is preparation. Build your safeguards. Protect what you've earned. Don't go quietly.